Welcome to this explainer on Mitre's very first core strategy for building a world-class cybersecurity operations center. Today, we're diving into a massive paradigm shift, how to move your team out of a purely tactical, reactive mindset and into a highly strategic one. I am super excited to walk you through this, because knowing what you're protecting and exactly why you're protecting it is literally the bedrock of modern cyber defense. Without it, well, your SOC isn't actually defending the mission. They're just spinning their wheels chasing alerts. So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover 1. The threat of blind spots. 2. The OODA loop and situational awareness. 3. The 5 pillars of context. 4. Navigating modern cloud environments. 5. Actually building that world-class SOC. And finally, Section 6, our key takeaways and next steps.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the threat of blind spots.
Think about your own daily operations for a second. What actually happens when your SOC operates in the dark? If analysts are dealing with way more data than they can possibly act upon, without any real business context, things go south fast. It leads directly to massive alert fatigue and totally misprioritized responses. When every flashing red light looks exactly the same, your highly trained analysts are going to burn out chasing ghosts. Meanwhile, the real mission-critical threats, they just slip right past. The reality is, you simply cannot protect a constituency if you do not deeply understand its underlying business. Now, to actually achieve this fundamental definition of cyber defense, your cybersecurity operations have to serve as mission enablers. They absolutely must have context for the data they're looking at. Think about it. A SOC doesn't exist just to close IT tickets, right? It exists to ensure that the core mission of your organization, whether that's securing billions in financial transactions, protecting sensitive healthcare records, or guarding national security, can continue completely uninterrupted, even while actively under attack.
To put that into perspective, imagine 2 different security incidents. In one scenario, you have a compromised loaner laptop that literally contains 0 sensitive data. In the other scenario, you have a compromised server housing your company's proprietary trade secrets, or maybe critical OT control data. Without business context, an analyst operating in the dark is going to treat both of these incidents with the exact same priority. They might waste precious hours digging into that empty laptop while the crown jewels get fully breached. Context is the only thing that dictates where you deploy your finite resources first.
Which brings us to Section 2, the OODA loop and awareness.
Just like a fighter pilot synthesizing a million sensory inputs while flying at Mach 2, your SOC desperately needs situational awareness to effectively defend assets in cyberspace. You have to perceive the environment, comprehend what that actually means for your enterprise risk, and then project what the adversary is going to do next. If you are only ever reacting to things after the fact, you've already lost your situational awareness.
And that is exactly where the observe, orient, decide, and act cycle, the famous OODA loop, comes into play. It acts as the engine for maintaining that situational awareness. You observe your telemetry, you orient it against your specific business context, you decide on the priority, and then you act. And because it's this incredibly dynamic, self-reinforcing loop, every single action feeds right back into your observations, constantly refining your defensive posture. This is how world-class SOCs stay one step ahead of the adversary.
Moving right along to Section 3, the 5 pillars of context. To successfully feed that OODA loop, especially that absolutely crucial orient phase, we've got to build our operating context upon 5 deeply coupled pillars. We are talking about everything from knowing what keeps your executives up at night, that's your business and mission pillar, to tracking patch status in your technical environment, all the way to identifying weird deviations in your users and behaviors pillar. Plus, you need to know what legal and regulatory frameworks apply to you and what specific threat landscape you're facing. If you miss even one of these pillars, your OODA loop is basically running on flawed intelligence. As a defender, your job is to constantly map your down-in-the-weeds telemetry directly back to those strategic pillars. Take Active Directory, for example. It isn't just an IT management tool. For a SOC, it establishes the critical baselines for your users and behaviors pillar. DHCP logs? They give you the physical and logical mapping for your technical environment. Elite analysts don't just stare at logs all day. They look through the lens of these pillars to find the actionable insights that actually move the needle. And all of this builds into a highly actionable intelligence model. Think about how threat intelligence has to intersect with your technical environment and your business relevancy to actually drive action. You could have the most amazing, cutting-edge threat intelligence on a specific adversary, but if it doesn't overlap with the actual systems you run or the business assets that matter to your mission, it's just noise. The real defensive action happens right in the center, where all three of those factors overlap.
Okay, let's hit Section 4, Navigating Modern Cloud Environments. So gathering context gets vastly more complicated when we introduce modern, decentralized infrastructure. The harsh reality today is that cloud assets, CI/CD pipelines, and remote workforces mean your constituents are going to stand up new services way faster than a traditional SOC can manually track them. You might have developers spinning up new Kubernetes clusters or buying new SaaS tools on a daily basis. If your team is relying on manual spreadsheets to understand your technical environment pillar, well, you're already months behind the adversary. To survive this kind of velocity, elite SOCs adopt a strict assume breach mindset. They heavily rely on automated templates and cloud policy frameworks to measure security hygiene seamlessly. They literally bake security monitoring right into the automated deployment pipelines. If you assume an asset is already compromised, you make absolutely sure that every single cloud resource automatically registers its telemetry with the SOC the second it spins up. That feeds directly into your enterprise-wide situational awareness without any manual heavy lifting.
Let's look at how to pull this all together in Section 5, Building a World-Class SOC. You can spot the maturity difference between a beginner and an elite SOC almost instantly. Beginner SOCs are usually drowning in manual asset tracking, completely siloed off from the rest of the IT organization. But elite SOCs, they operate and integrate just like DevOps. They create a dynamic, single source of truth for all IT, OT, and cloud assets. They don't just sit around and react. They proactively build an automated environment where business context is completely institutionalized into the SOC's daily workflow.
Transitioning to that elite level requires a structured roadmap, so don't try to boil the ocean on day one. Step 1, start small. Just go talk to your mission owners and executives and find out what keeps them up at night. Step 2, gather your legal and regulatory constraints. Step 3, systematically assess your environment to establish a baseline. Step 4, identify and prioritize your most critical data. And Step 5, encode all of that hard-won knowledge into your standard operating procedures. If a Tier 1 analyst gets a critical alert at 3 a.m., your SOPs should automatically serve up the exact business context of that affected asset.
Finally, we are at Section 6, Key Takeaways and Next Steps. If you only take away one thing from this explainer, let it be this. You cannot protect what you do not understand. You must prioritize business context, actively use the OODA loop, and ground everything in those 5 pillars. And remember, this strategy isn't just a one-time setup project. Your technical environment is going to change, your business mission will adapt, and the threat landscape is definitely going to shift. You have to constantly iterate and validate your priorities with leadership to make sure your SOC remains a true mission enabler.
Now that you know exactly what you are protecting and why, I want you to ask yourself a tough question. Do you actually have the organizational power to protect it? Because having all the context in the world is totally useless if you don't have the authority to pull the plug on a compromised system while you're actively under attack. So who really holds the power during a breach? We are going to uncover exactly how to structure that authority in our next explainer on Strategy 2. I'll see you there.